the Liberal government is rolling out its confiscation program, what they're calling a buyback. And it's funny because people like, don't use their language. It's not a buyback. They never owned these things in the first place. Like, I know that. But on top of that, they're not only calling it a buyback, but they're saying you can return these firearms to the government for money. It's like, return. They were never yours. You never had them. It's not a return. But anyway, if I use the term buyback, don't lose your minds. It's funny. People have been doing that lately. So the confiscation program is rolling out in the form of a pilot project in Cape Breton exclusively. Interesting. The reason why they're able to do that is they have full cooperation from the Cape Breton Police Service. And then somebody said, I don't know if this is true. And if it isn't, don't be like, you're spreading misinformation. I'm telling you flat out, I don't know it's true. But apparently there's some family connection between the police chief in Cape Breton and the Liberal MP there. If that's not true, I take it back right now, because I don't like even saying things if it's not verified, but that wouldn't surprise me because of all the people, all the law enforcement agencies saying, this has nothing to do with licensed gun owners. This is all wrong. We don't want any part of it and whatever. This little department's like, yes, we are proud to round up firearms from licensed gun owners, and none at all from criminals. Just kind of strange. And I think I had tweeted something. I said, I'm really curious at what point all of these different people, individuals in law enforcement, or if they will at all, get to a point where they're like, I'm not doing that. That's wrong. That's a waste of money. It's morally wrong, and I'm not doing it. So far, the OPP said they're not doing it. Probably a money thing, but you never know. They might be like, yeah, we're flat out not doing that because it's not right. Cape Breton, no, they're all in and they're proud. So I don't know, kind of interesting. So here are the details for this, what they call phase 2. The retail buyback, I think, was phase 1. This is phase 2. And I guess phase 3 will be the one for everybody across the country. So here are the details. I attended a technical briefing yesterday with public safety. Wilson was there, and our general counsel, Mike Loberg of Loberg 𝐥𝐿 in Calgary, was there as well. So the details are the Canadian Firearms Program, when this thing rolls out, is going to send out a letter to everyone that has a PAL. And it's going to say, there are all these prohibited firearms. You may own one of these things. Go to this web portal and check. And if so, you have to turn it in for compensation. Now, this is going to change. There's some things that are going to just blow your mind coming up in a second. And then so what happens is they have a web portal. It's all built. It's already available to the residents of the 3,100 firearm owners that live in the Cape Breton area already. But basically, when you go there, you put your PAL and all your personal information in there. It will access your records, and it will, this is my understanding from the meeting, is it will self-populate all of your restricted firearms. Remember, these are the ones that are registered that they know you have, like AR-15s or other registered, short-barreled semi-autos or long guns that are less than 26 inches in overall length that are registered as restricted. So restricted firearms are registered. They know you have them. Those will self-populate because you are turning those in. We know you have them, kind of thing, right? And then you can start filling out the rest of the form for all these non-restricted firearms that they don't know that you have that are now prohibs. So you fill all this stuff out, then you hit submit. So the rumors that were floating around that this program has a capped budget are true. So what the government has done is they said, we're allocating $742 million, and that is to compensate gun owners that register and whatever, put in for compensation, compensate them for their firearms if they turn them in for destruction. If you want to deactivate them, you can get reimbursed for the deactivation. So you're going to lose all the money on the firearm, but you're going to have to pay $400 to $700 somewhere in there, right? Let's say $500 to have this thing deactivated. If you're not sure what that is, they weld the action shut, weld a bunch of parts inside, weld the barrel, block the barrel somehow, so it actually isn't a firearm anymore. You can actually take your AR-15 and put it on the wall. It's like a $2,500 piece of art, I guess, for the wall of your home, not a firearm anymore. So anyway, they'll reimburse you for that deactivation, or you can export it, or you can turn it in for free. Now, the payments for the firearms come out of this budget, And the reimbursements for the deactivations come out of this budget. And apparently the retail buyback has come out of that budget as well, is my understanding. I could have that wrong, but that's what I think is going on, because they said that, the budget's already being accessed. When that budget money is gone, there are no more reimbursements for deactivations, and there are no more compensation for those firearms. So what they've done, and you've heard this before probably, but they're saying, hey, gun owners, run into that portal as soon as it's open as fast as you can, because you're competing with everybody else for compensation. So tell us what you have as soon as you possibly can. Send that information. But it's first come, first served. So if you're too far down the queue, you have told us everything that you have, and you aren't getting paid for any of it. You're going to turn it in for free, or you're going to have it, or you're going to pay $500, $400 to $700 to have all of those firearms deactivated out of your pocket, and you'll have to keep them that way. Or, of course, the alternative to that is be a criminal. I told public safety, it's not them that are doing it. They're told to do something and they're doing that, right? It's the politicians. But I said, that scheme is diabolical, is what I said to them right there. And it is. It's it's evil. But anyway, it is what it is. So we had the opportunity to ask questions, and I asked a fair amount of questions. I'm going to share this information, and this information is going to blow your mind. So I said, okay, $742 million. Some of it's been spent already. You're going to reimburse for deactivations, and you're going to compensate for people's firearms. Now, bear in mind, some of these are 50 cals. These are $10,000 rifles. There's a couple of double barrel rifles out there that are worth $100,000 per gun. And it's my understanding that there's a guy somewhere in Canada that has a dozen of these things or something like that. And so that money is going to get burned up really quick. So I said, how many rifles are you guys budgeting to pay for? Because they've done some fairly complicated calculation. And what they told me was they are prepared to pay for 152,000 firearms. And I went, in total? I guess I can't, I'm paraphrasing myself now because I can't remember, right? Because I was writing things down. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what? There's somewhere around 90,000 ARs. You know about those, plus some other restricteds that you know about that are now prohibs. And the fellow from public safety said, yeah, we know those numbers. So we're going to pay for a total of 152,000 rifles or shotguns or whatever, firearms. We know that there are 126,000 and change restricted firearms. So those are going to pop up on your portal, self-populate. And so those are all the ARs and all the other guns that are restricted by barrel length or by name or by overall length. And I'm like, okay, you're paying for 152. You're telling me you know about restricted and registered 126. And then some of the budget's already been used up for the retail buyback. So 20,000 firearms you expect on top of that? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what? 20,000? You guys have prohibited GSG 16s, GSG 15s, all the other GSGs, 22s, right? All these 50 cals, 800 models that were more or less immediately prohibited as variants by the RCMP. So you did 1,550 plus another 800 or 900. And then you did the second ban, the second OIC, which was what was it? 324 models or something, but 330 models on top of that, plus any variants to those. And then another, whatever it wasn't a lot. The third one was, I even forget what it was, but 30 models or something. It wasn't a lot. Somebody will correct me on that. But I mean, we're talking I don't know what, 3,000 models of firearms? And you can account for the ARs and a handful of restricteds. All the rest of that, all these AR 180 clones, all the rest of this stuff, and you think it's 20,000 firearms? I would think, and I don't know because we don't know, nobody knows really, I would think there's another, like there's hundreds of thousands more. Like I would think. The Ruger PC carbines, right? Carbines that they had, the Sterling arms, like, what? So let's say for sake of argument, it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 400,000 more firearms. You're budgeting for another 20,000 and everyone's in a race to tell you what they have, knowing full well that you're going to be like, yeah, we're not going to pay for them. And then all those people, even if they're like, okay, well, I'll disable them. It's like, well, yeah, you pay $500, $600, $700 out of pocket for every firearm yourself to disable it, and we'll let you keep that, or you just hand it in for nothing. Like, holy smokes, man. I was like, wow. I don't even know what to say about that. But they're like, oh, we're pretty confident in our numbers. I'm like, okay. I don't even know what to say about that right now, actually. Anyway, so if you want to find out what your firearms are worth, they have an online tool. I'll put a link in the description box for that tool, and the search function works fairly well. So if you just type in Ruger, you'll see all the Rugers, the PC carbines, all the rest of that stuff, plus everything else that they banned that was Ruger. You can type in WS for the WS-MCR. You'll find those firearms. I tried it on a whole bunch of different firearms. It works pretty well, and you can see all the prices. The prices are slightly low. And on top of that, when you buy a firearm, you're paying tax. You're paying, in BC, you're paying 2 taxes. In Ontario, you're paying HST, which is what, 12%? So you're buying that firearm, you're paying 12% on top of it. If you bought it through the mail, then you're, shipping and whatever. So you're not getting paid for any of that stuff. And some of these prices are a little bit low. One that I found, and I know that there are others, but one that I found was the Sterling Arms R9 Mark I. So that's a really nice rifle, and people have been using that for competition shooting, and it runs about $1,800. The government says they're paying you $600 for it, and I brought that up. I said the R1 says $600, and they're like, yeah, we're pretty confident in the numbers that we got. I'm like, what? Like, some of the others make sense. Some of the others are pretty close, but they seem to be close, but just slightly low. So the government's trimming a little bit of your money off, right, to help save them from this, horrible boondoggle that they're going to wear, this albatross that they're going to wear around their necks at some point, right? Politically speaking. And yeah, anyway, you can check all those prices. That's out there. If you're not subscribed, please do that. The notification bell is great. Yeah, if you want to be notified when we do a new video, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But if you can subscribe, that would be awesome. I'd really like to see us get to 100,000 subscribers, which would be good. Okay, that's it. Thanks everyone. Take care, and we will see you soon.